Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can hear you. Yes. So how's everybody doing? How's it going with the laws? What are you noticing?
I'm going to let Rich speak first because I just saw you all.
Speaking about you guys, yeah. They were in the Fly membership with me just a minute ago. We just
Two things. First thing is I'm feeling kind of flustered. And I think I've just found a mental paradigm that I'm really glad I'm logging in now with you guys. Okay, so I'm feeling flustered because, as you know, I'm doing this coaching with Lori, and I submitted my headlines yesterday, and I tried to log into my account this morning, and I can't freaking log in. It's like saying you've already attempted to log in too many times, and all of a sudden, like this barrage of like, what the hell's going on here? Like, you know, it's like, why is God doing this? Like, it's because I don't know. It's because like, this is kind of embarrassing. It's because like I watched an erotic video on the internet last night, and now I'm being punished. I can't log into my damn Marketing Rebel account. And I tried to reset my password, and that's still not working. And then all of a sudden, like this flurry of like worries are like bombarding my mind. What if I can never log in? This is it. I paid like a couple of grand for this coaching. What if I can never log in? What if they're jealous of me because my everything I'm submitting is getting more hits and views than everybody else in the account? They're like, oh man, this guy's too good. We're gonna shut him down. Like I'll just like this. I don't know, man. So I'm feeling flustered this morning. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is actually from yesterday. I was feeling kind of philosophical, just about life and about how to attain things. And I was thinking about, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking too long. Is it okay to talk? Maybe another 2-3 minutes. So I'm feeling philosophical. First of all, there's a guy named Daniel Throssell, who's dubbed as maybe Australia's #1 copywriter. And what's really interesting is he was working in an engineering job that he hated, like totally despised. He would be working on an island from 5 a.m. to like 6 p.m. every day, 28 days straight, like no weekends off. And one day, a marketer by the name of Ramit Sethi, maybe you guys know him, he held a copywriting contest. And this guy just off the cuff with zero copywriting training, zero, like he didn't even know what copywriting was. He's like, oh yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll try and write a sales page. And to make a long story short, he submitted it and he won, beating out tons of other experienced like copywriters. And then fast forward to today, highly successful. He's got his own business. Actually, I've got one of his products, and his stuff is really good. But what amazes me is just kind of like how the universe works in that sense. Like engineering, hates his job, off the cuff, makes a submission, and boom, look at where he's at now. And then just one other example is the super famous actor, Japanese actor. His name is Toshiro Mifune. He was like the star in The Seven Samurai and the Yojimbo, which is the bodyguard, which is basically the Kevin Costner movies, kind of like based off of that. I don't know if you guys have heard of Akira Kurosawa. He's like a super famous movie director. Anyway, to make a long story short, he is one of the biggest stars in the history of acting, not just in Japan, but globally. And how he got his start was he was working as a cameraman, and he went to the set to do some camera work. And apparently he accidentally went into the wrong studio. and he crashed an acting audition that was taking place, but he didn't know it at the time. And anyway, so it was his turn to speak, and he's thinking he's interviewing for a camera job because he's a cameraman. He's not an actor, right? And then the director says, "Okay, now I want you to pretend you're angry or something." And he was like really pissed because, come on, I'm interviewing for a camera job. Why do I gotta pretend like I'm angry? Anyway, to make a long story short, he really got angry, and he just blew everybody away on the set. And he stormed out of the studio, actually. And the director's like, "Whoa, that guy, go back and get that guy. He's good." Anyway, long story short, fast forward, he becomes like one of the biggest stars in Japan and then globally. Like zero intention. But these are just two examples, like zero intention to do what turned out to be incredible careers. And I don't know, like it's just like thinking like I'm just like thinking like how it's interesting how that works, you know, like and I'm having thoughts like maybe it's not good to like try too hard to like force results, to like force what you gotta have, or become too attached to a certain result or something. Another kind of philosophical thought I was having is that sometimes, I don't know, like God has created you with certain attributes, talents, and strengths, and like innate, intrinsic to who you are. And that, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of like sensing you should play to those things, because that's in terms of like working in accordance with natural law, what you have been created to do is where you're going to naturally shine. Yeah. So that's kind of like where I'm at this morning. Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Glad you're here. I'm glad you shared. There's a bunch of themes there that run along what we're going to talk about with the law of attraction. And, you know, a law of attraction is the moderation source of supply. And so, you know, that kind of idea of what you attend to and what you're interested in and what you're thinking about is going to be your own, because everybody's different, right? And so that God-given gifts are going to sort of direct your attention, your interests based on that. And I think it's really interesting, the guy that ended up being the actor, one could say, oh, that just happened. But if you look at it, his attention was in the movie industry. He was interested in it. He was paying attention to it. He came to this interview, you know, and then he paid attention to what he was being asked to do and went in the flow of it. And it resulted in something that he didn't, it gave him something that he didn't necessarily expect in a certain way, but it followed a course, right? And so you're exactly right. Like, so many times we're looking for what it is we want. We're pushing it so hard. We've made the determination that, you know, I'm going to get $1 million by having 20 clients that pay me $50,000 each. And all of my effort is going to be on that. I'm just going to do that. And then there's other things that are flying around that all you got to do is reach out and be part of. But like him becoming an actor, it was all part of his natural gifts. It was all in the supply, but he hadn't seen it before. That wasn't his, he wasn't attending to it until it happened, right? But he was in flow. He was doing what he was told. He was reacting in anger, but his attention was in that way. It's just an opening came for something that he wasn't myopic about. So I think there's a problem with human beings when we get too myopic and too, that's the house, right? That's the horrible house, right? And so, you know, the law of attraction tells us, get the hell out of the horrible house, you know, there's a supply there. We've already gone, this is a building process. Our thoughts are managing things, and there's a supply. And then the law of attraction is the moderator of it. How does it come to you? Where does it come from? What are you creating? And so then that brings me to the next point of your frustration with not being able to sign on. And, you know, how does that all fit into the whole, you know, moderation of what's going on? I don't exactly know, but we got to remember that there's no, if we're living and looking for the good, that everything's to our good, that there's something there that's to your good. There's no failure because it's all toward the good, right? And so I don't know if it's something you're, you know, certainly what's going on in your head is mind stuff. All of those liars are running around in there at their annual conference, having a let's attack Rich, you know, liar fest in your head. And, you know, so they're up there, you know, having their fun, but, and that's creating, you know, maybe an attention to something that in another space and time you wouldn't pay attention to. And then that's creating more of the problem, right? I can't sign in. I can't sign in. Oh, damn it. You know, and the liars are just having a great fun. So, you know, like you said, not forcing things, realizing it's happening to your good, and relax, you know, relax. I've started telling my son, there's almost nothing I can think of that happens that we can't fix. There's a solution for almost everything, right? And so relaxing, we don't know what this is about, but certainly if you get engaged in interest and energy toward it, it's going to create more of it. More problem, more frustration, more the liars at the convention are going to grow in numbers, you know, it's going to create more of it. So I would say your philosophical line of thinking of pushing too hard, maybe this is about that, you know, just kind of relax. We talked about the last time we were together, how much you were tired and you needed, you came to this idea, I need to rest some. So this is your gift. Maybe you put that out in the universe. I need to rest. And so it's like, nope, go rest. I don't know. But anyway, it's all to your good. There's no mistakes. And start looking for the good in it. And then the perspective and the perception will just turn.
Right. I gotta adopt that perspective.
So what's
all for my good.
what's the good of you not being able to sign in? What is Yeshem giving you?
It's a good question. It's a good. I guess one good thing is that it's a great opportunity to grow spiritually, and I've also been given the awareness that I have this mental paradigm. So the way you're looking at it is it's all for the good. And I'm looking at it as like, okay, God is pissed at me because I watched a little porno last night. And last night when I was cooking, like I had an accident, like when I was cooking refried beans. And it literally, like I flipped the pan over into my hand. And this might be like a 2nd or 3rd degree burn. I don't know if you can see the
Yeah. Oh,
ouch. I don't know. It's like last night. And again, I think also when you have guilt feelings because you feel like you sinned or something, I don't know. I think that might tend to cause little quote accidents and these little unfortunate little incidents to happen. As you can see, I'm already kind of framing it in like a not so positive, like accidents and things like, so I don't know, I guess there's like a part of me that just feels guilty for just being who I am or something. And I really want to be able to adopt that mindset that God is on my side, the universe is on my side. And even though it seems negative on the surface, it's really a good thing. If I can just make that switch, and not the switch just being in my head, but like a real thorough internal switch, like emanating from the very soul of my being. Yeah.
So, wow, this is a lot and deep and tons, and I can tell Mela wants to say something so badly, but
Go ahead, I'm good.
no, she will. I just, let me say this that is coming to my mind. And actually, while Mila's talking, I'm gonna go get my Think and Grow Rich book. But Napoleon Hill asserts that there's three forces that are major, compelling, develop what you want into reality, compelling forces. And they are love, sex, and desire. And when those three work together, it's almost over the top, right? So you have people that maybe a man's so in love with this woman, and they, you see what happens, like they'll move mountains to get there or whatever. So those three emotions together are, they create, that energy creates a lot. So so I'm going to say this about, the perspective of guilt for being a human and having sexual urges or whatever, is maybe something to evaluate of why would God give you those urges if you weren't supposed to use them? And they weren't one of the most compelling pieces of creation, of creating whatever, creating humans, creating creativity, creating whatever. So that's one thing. And then I would invite you to also read the Law of Forgiveness. And the Law of Forgiveness is very prescriptive about how damaging us staying in our self-flagellation is for us, and guilt. And that it actually is not to the good. It's not of God. And God is not sitting there saying, oh boy, you need to feel guilty. I'm gonna throw this pan on you. Because that is not God's world. And so this whole stuff that we're doing is to ourselves is not helping us to expand as human beings, to expand as spiritual people, and to have success. So the very first piece of the Law of Forgiveness is learning how to sort of get out of that guilt. I don't want to say forgive yourself, but, be in relationship with yourself in a loving way. So it's very, very important, very, very important. So nothing that now, the fact that you started thinking about, oh, I could create, am I creating this? Is God mad at me? Is the fact that you started like putting the attention and the interest and the energy into that, then the next thing's going to happen, and the next thing's going to happen, because you're freaking creating it. You are a master creator. You're a master manifestor. We all are. And so, yeah, that's going to start happening. So it's not God doing it. It's God's hands and feet are doing it, but it's because it's not God's mind. It's the convention that's going on up there. that it's, that you could literally stop and say, look, the law of thinking requires me to take control of this situation. You guys out. You guys are having too much of a party up here in my head. You're weeds. You're taking up too much space. You need to go. I don't care where you go, but get out because you're not welcome. You're not thoughts that'll help me, that are to the good. So
This
No,
is very helpful. Thanks.
good. I'm gonna go grab the book and read the little part from Napoleon Hill, but go ahead and say what you got to say, Noah, please.
So the first thing that I was going to say is we do not have a punishing God. So you should not feel guilty about stuff like that. But getting in that mindset, exactly like Paula says, you kind of create or justify that something happened. So therefore you deserve to burn yourself or whatever. But when you were talking about kind of pressuring, putting pressure on, it's got to be, so part of the law of attraction, the one biggest nugget that I took out of reading most of the chapter, sorry, Paula, is the part where it says, do not force your thought as pressure causes congestion and confusion. So even like in general, right? You were trying to log on, you couldn't log on. You were getting frustrated. You were putting more pressure into the fact that you were trying to log on, you couldn't log on. So it's like a vicious cycle that you could have, created. How many times have maybe you lost your keys and then you freak out because you can't find your keys and you got to leave. And then you take a deep breath and you say, Lord, please help me find my keys. Because you interrupted your thought pattern, then you're able to think clearly. And I bet you 9 times out of 10, you remember where your keys were.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing you shared that, because an incident just like that actually happened to me a couple of weeks ago. Like, I normally keep my keys hanging on the hook that I have on my wall, but I was getting ready to leave in the morning and they weren't there, and I had a total freak out session. Like, it was like Michael Jackson on heroin, moonwalking backwards or something. Like, oh my God,
On the ceiling.
And then yeah, and then I just got quiet, and I was like, I said a prayer, like, Lord,
Mhm.
just
It was a way to disrupt that thought
please
process that
direct
you were
me to the
having.
keys.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I just calmly started searching. Very logically, you'd be like, duh, but looking at the this little basket of clothes that I have that are kind of located a little bit to the right hand side of where the hook is, and I just calmly started, my English ain't coming out, taking one piece of clothing after another, and the keys were in. I don't know. I guess they were in that bunch of clothing, and I never would have found them. They would probably remain hidden forever. And I probably would have freaked out, went to the, had to go to the landlord, sorry, I lost my key. She would have given me the master key. I would have gone to the locksmith, got a copy made, but no, it's like, okay, let's be calm. I mean, in the physical world, the keys can only be like in this space here somewhere. Okay,
You were taking
they have
a
to
page
be
out
in
of Peter's book. The worst case
Oh,
scenario.
Yeah, to some situation.
But yeah, so go ahead.
I thought you were done.
I was just going to say, so those are the 2 biggest things that I picked up, where, take a step back, disrupt the thought process so you can kind of what do you call it, Paula, where you were like, separate yourself? You had done some kind of visual. I just remember your hands being like this in my head.
Moment of separation. Yeah.
Yeah. So that way you can think clearly and be out of that emotional turmoil or whatever emotion that you're feeling at the time. You kind of separate yourself from it, and then you realign, and then you can think, more clearly going forward.
Yeah, I love that. The biggest, first of all, like right now, I feel totally released, like totally fine now. But the biggest takeaway that I got having clarity on is how important it is to, it's actually, I'm getting a renewed understanding. a clear understanding of the importance of loving yourself, actually. Why that's so important, because I guess I'm just kind of like viewing myself as on a deep level, like as somebody who doesn't deserve good things, as somebody who deserves the opposite, deserves to have refried beans, boiling refried beans tossed over on my hand, or not being able to log into my account, or whatever. So yeah, wow. I think on a deeper level, I mean, this idea of like love yourself, I don't know, was kind of like not, I feel like I have a clear understanding of why it's so important today, which is important because I have to write about this sometimes, and this clarity is going to help. But anyway, yeah, to me that's like the biggest thing. On like a deep foundational level, I really got to. I don't want to use the words "gotta," like I don't want to, but I want to gently love myself more, so that the change occurs at a deep level, not just the surface. I deserve. I am worthy. I deserve the very best
Yes, you
that
do.
God has to give me. And it's okay to affirm that. And all of you also deserve the very best that God wants to give you.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this was a release. Thank you for
Good.
letting me dominate the whole first 30 minutes of today's coaching.
Absolutely fine. And Peter says, we also, can we celebrate that you expressed yourself honestly? It changed your energy getting out.
I didn't see that. Thank you so much, Peter. Yeah. I think it's like one of my strengths, because I used to, back in the days when I was living in San Francisco, I had a dream of becoming a professional actor, and I actually took like professional acting workshops, and I learned how to really be vulnerable and express myself without editing. Maybe a lot of people would feel embarrassed about, oh yeah, watch some porn website. Like they'd never say that, but like my instrument is kind of trained to not edit. I mean, that's the training you will get if you train to become an actor. A good teacher will always be like, you're holding something back. I know you're not expressing something. You're holding something back. Don't edit. You're a human being. Let whatever's in there, let it flow. Don't get clogged up. I'm thinking about like blood clots in the vaccine now, right? So again, this is kind of like a stream of consciousness, kind of like don't edit anything, just like flow. But thanks a lot for your comment, Peter. I can't see you, but I really appreciate it.
He says he's eating dinner, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to just read this to you, because fascinatingly, very fascinating, in Napoleon Hill's book, this comment is under the faith section. Faith. It's under the section faith. And it says, faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into spiritual equivalent, and transmutes it into infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. Faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of all positive emotions. When the three are blended, they have the effect of coloring the vibration of thought in such a way that it instantly reaches the subconscious mind, where it is changed into its spiritual equivalent, and the only form that induces a response from infinite intelligence. So how can that be bad? It's a positive emotion.
I love that. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
my confession as well. I was reading. I wasn't able to finish the chapter because I was like, I got here early. I was going to do my blog article, but then I was like, oh, I'm going to check into my Marketing Rebel account and see if Lori commented on my headlines. And that's when it led to just destroying my morning. Wasn't able to get my blog article done. I'll do it after today's session. And I was only able to read maybe about half. I don't even know how far I got. But what I want to say was, yeah, the book is amazing. It did almost immediately have a calming effect on my soul.
It does mine too. I love
It's
it.
like kind of like getting a peek, like an instruction manual behind like what Jesus is doing when he's doing what he did.
Yes, absolutely. What's the real driving force?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the you said driving, but like the driver's manual, so to speak, in a sense, is what
The manual to success, which is what it is. Yes. Well, I'm just so pleased that you guys are as much interested in this as I am, because it's like I could do this all the time, all day long, every day. I would talk about it, and I would say, oh, and then there's this law, and have you read about this? And then somebody else will say, well, what about this? How does this one fit into that? Because there's different people that write about these, and they have very common themes, and they call them different laws. And so there's like, the philosopher's conversation about, which law does this fit in, kind of. So anyway, are we ready? Can we go ahead and Peter says, look how your energy has shifted. Yes, absolutely. It has. It's beautiful. It's beautiful and pure. It's pure. It's a God energy. Yeah. Yeah. So you can always tell when people have sort of cleared something, the face of God shows up, in my opinion. I see the face. It's like full and focused and complete and just honest, right? The face of God. All right. Well, for a few minutes, we're going to just go through this law of attraction. I started to show The Secret tonight, but you can go watch it yourself. You guys all know who I am. I'm not going to go through that. I wanted to do just a couple of reviews, if that's all right with everybody. So what we've gone over, and it's interesting to me because when I was first studying this stuff, it sort of felt like, oh, and here's this one, and here's this one, and here's this one. But it is very clear and evident that these build on each other. All right. So we're not talking about the law of attraction for any kind of weird reason. It's on purpose. So it first starts with thinking. That's the foundation, the law of thinking. And our thoughts are things. And if we don't manage our thoughts, they're going to manage us. So we see the liars that are in our head that just take over and have a convention. Yeah, let me see what's oh yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing. I would invite you to join the Fly group if you'd like to, the membership. It's First Love Yourself membership. It's phenomenal. We just had our first meeting tonight. It was very excellent. Okay, the law of supply is the next law that we talked about this for the last 2 weeks, that before we get to where we're going to create, we have to believe that it exists. We have to believe that what we want is around us. God has provided it. There's, the squirrels are running around and they're not worrying if there's enough acorns for them to find. It's there. It's accepted. The supply is there. So the law of supply says that now that you got your thinking going, understand that there's a law of supply, that you see all the dots over there. There's just plenty. And you don't need to fret about it. You don't need to fret about money. You don't need to fret about supply. In fact, relax is the most common word I hear in creation. Relax, relax, relax. And then that word of believe and you will receive. Believe and you will receive. It's not the other way. A lot of times people say, I'll believe it when I see it. But in the real law is you believe it and then you will see it. And that's why so many people are not getting where they want to go. They're operating in a misconstrued version of how you create. So tonight, what we're going to talk about is the law of attraction, and everybody's heard this for sure. But I love the presentation of this. And did anybody read the chapter, all of the chapter? besides me, who read it like 3 times this week.
80% of the chapter. I'm still working on it because I
I'm
started
just
the
the
book
wacko
over.
who reads it over and over and over and over again. So, so the real, many times in the law of attraction, what we're presented with, The Secret, if you've watched it, and I've watched that several times. I like that movie. It's very inspiring, I think. It gives you hope that there could be something besides what we see in front of us, but the law of attraction that we hear about a lot is only partially presented. We have a presentation usually that if you think about it, and then sometimes there's the little piece, and if you start getting emotionally involved in it, then it'll happen, whether it's good or bad, right? What you fear will come to pass, and what you celebrate will come to pass. But if we really study this and we really want to understand how this really fits together, kind of break this apart, the Rubik's Cube, and figure out how the Rubik's comes together, there's 3 basic elements in the law of attraction. And desire is a core element. Desire connects you with what you want, right? So, we all know I want a bike. Desire connects with the energy of it. All right. So the bike or $1 million or whatever has an energy. And the fact that you desire it connects you with that level of energy. All right. So desire switches on supply. Desire is the thing that moderates the supply to you. So supply is everywhere. It's all over the place. There's energy everywhere. There's a supply of water. There's a supply of, whatever. And when you have a desire, it starts to get that thing and start to bring it to you, that energy. Does that make sense? Kind of. Well, we'll keep going. And so then the other component, once you've developed your desire, you think about it, you imagine it, you really want it, you develop expectation. And expectation is the piece that isn't often spoken about when we talk about the law of attraction in the, most places. And expectation is actually the thing that draws it in. So desire is sort of in the non-physical world. Desire is in the, you don't see it, but there's a connection to universal intelligence. That's the spiritual. Desire is related to the spiritual and the frequency. Expectation is what takes it out of spiritual and brings it into the 3D world. Right? So you got to be able to get into the expectation. And many people only stay in desire. And then after a while, desire fades. And if you don't keep your eye on the desire, your attention on the desire, other things will come about, right? The other energies will take over. So expectation is the hand that reaches it in and brings it to you. It's a very important element. And this is usually left out of a traditional understanding of law of attraction. And then the third component is taking action. So that's another piece of the law of attraction and how it's presented is, if you just imagine it long enough, you sit in the middle of your living room, it's just going to plop in front of you. It's not how God made us. And, we have to it doesn't have to be like killing ourselves, and it can come from rest. It is best if it comes from joy. And that's why, this guy that shows up to interview for the camera position, he probably really liked that element of being in theater, of being around these people. He had some level of positive emotion until he got pissed off. But, there's an element of joy in taking action. He showed up for what he thought was an interview, right? He wasn't just sitting in his bedroom. So let's go into these a little bit deeper. Any comments, thoughts? There's not many slides tonight, so we won't. It's more of a letting this sink in, study the chapter and practice it.
Well, so like the other example that Rich gave about the guy who was working the job he didn't like, and he kind of offhandedly kind of threw a copy
Mm-hmm,
editor
mm-hmm,
competition piece in. I don't-
mm-hmm.
So what about the expectation on that? So I took two things from that story, but make sure that I'm thinking the right way. So he had the desire to do something different.
Right.
He took a chance.
And he probably imagined into it and went into the almost the spiritual intuitive realm and the imagined realm, those higher faculties of
Mhm.
thinking, and utilize those. So he, performed this desire and got involved in it.
Then since he didn't have pressure,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And, he wasn't like forcing it. He wasn't overthinking it. He wasn't thinking of all the reasons why he couldn't win. Right. So it, like Gail said this evening, she just thinks about abundance, not how you get it. Right. So would that be in that law of thinking piece? And then maybe, yes, maybe he did think, oh, wouldn't it be really nice if I won, or, if I won, I could do these things and get out of the job that.
But I'm going to take it to a different perspective. Is his desire was more, I want something else besides this job.
Right. So this or something better.
So it wasn't really about writing the copy that he desired. It wasn't like he was walking around saying, oh, I've always wanted to be a copywriter. I mean, I just want no, it was about a desire coming out of something he wasn't happy with, a contrast, right?
Mhm.
So he looked at it and he was like, gee whiz, I mean, there's a contest here. Let me just, I'm desiring something else. And then what followed it, so that got connected to the spiritual energies of creating something else. And he was just out there with, let me receive, which we're going to talk next week about the law, or week after about the law of receiving. And he was out there, just let me receive. But his expectation is something else is going to happen, because he would not have taken the action if he didn't expect something else to happen.
True.
I mean, if he said, oh, I see this, this contest, and, I've never done that before, he would, scroll on from it. Right. But instead, there was a higher faculty that went there and kind of poked him. Right. And then he kind of got like, well, maybe I'll try it. And I'm going to expect that something else could happen, or else he wouldn't have done it.
True.
Just to add to that a little bit. I know this guy's story quite well because I listened to his interviews. He had been following Ramit Sethi, the marketer who sponsored that contest, for quite a while. So you can see from that he had been kind of nurturing his desire for a while to do something else.
And when you read the chapter, we're going to talk about again tonight when we go a little bit deeper into what these components really break a little bit down further into. There's the element of interest, which he's been following this guy for a while. The more interest that you have in something, the more it draws it to you. Right. So, the more it draws the opportunity, it draws whatever. And then attention. Interest and attention. And so attention is something that'll move you to action. You're paying attention to it enough where you're going to paint the picture or you're going to write the copy or whatever. So he had interest. He was following this guy. And then he had attention. He was paying attention to what the guy was doing, what he was saying. He was inspired, whatever. Right. So he took some action and wrote it. Right. With the expectation he was going to do something different. And then finally is expectation that comes behind that. So you've got interest and you've got attention. And then what comes finally is expectation. And
right.
Expectation.
Sorry to interrupt. No, on the day of the contest, it was happening while he was working on the job, like wearing his hard hat and his suit. And he was actually listening to it on his radio. So you can see super expectation there, right? He was like listening to see, I wonder who's
going to win this? Could I win? What if they mention me? He had expectation there.
So
yes.
I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, yes. This is all fitting, right? So we from a distance think, oh, this just happened to him. But when we really break this down, we can see where this law is really working, right? And maybe in a different way than what we usually would think. You know, we gotta pull it, we gotta, you know, struggle. You know, we think we need to have that. So let's talk about desire. Desire starts with a really clear and well-defined picture of what you want. So, you know, he was pretty clear. He wanted not working where he's working, right? And then he was pretty clear he liked this guy who was already doing the advertisement. That guy kind of interests him. But your feeling of desire needs to be clear and well defined. In fact, you often hear people say, see yourself in the possession of what it is you want. That is how clear you want that to be. You know, like the other day I had this awareness because I am manifesting an amount of money. And I had this, you know, this soul awareness of, okay, let's not, you know, let's live in our mind's eye as if I have it. What am I going to do? I see it in my bank account. What am I going to do? And I went through the steps, and it was very interesting. A lot of those steps I could do today, you know. It was very interesting. But anyway, so you want to have a really clear idea of what you want, and God, stay out of the horrible house. You know, what we want to do is we want to start answering ourselves, well, how am I going to get there? How am I ever going to get $50,000? How am I ever, you know, what else can I do? And that's where the pushing starts to come, and the worry and the fretting. It's not here yet. Why, you know, well, I've done this. Yeah, that can be really hard. Let's just acknowledge that. Put that out in the sunshine so it dries up. That we are taught to live in the horrible house. So we gotta, you know, we gotta move along with that kind of idea and acknowledge my thinking right now is in the horrible house. Remember, the law of thinking is impacting this. So you're in charge. You're in charge, and you can say, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that to the universe. I'm gonna trust you, God. But get a clear picture of what it is you want. You really want to like get your clear picture when you're relaxed, not tensed up, not freaked out, you know, don't get all mad and like say, oh, I'm just going to visualize what I want. This is really not the time. You're probably going to create something else, right? When you're not being able to sign in to what your account, and you're really frustrated. It's not the time to, you know, go create your $1 million idea. And you want to really ask yourself this question. This is to the good. This is the God part of this. It's best to engage in desire that will round out your life, making you happier and able to help others. So what you're desiring, if it's to the good of you and others, is really how the universe is going to come and help it out. It's got to be it's got to be to the good. And there's a lot of people that get into the law of attraction, and what they're trying to create is not to the good of all. And so this is a big piece to kind of think about. How will it round out my life, giving me more happiness, more fullness, more joy, more peace, and be able to help others? And if you sit long enough with it, it's going to move you into expectation. Hold on, I have a son going, Mom, hold on. So, have a conversation. Okay. So what you're desiring, the kind of the idea is if it's to the good, it should be moving you, like the thoughts of it should be moving you more into harmony and peace, and not be anxiety ridden and like crazy making.
Well, then ideally the law wouldn't work. Isn't that correct?
Why?
Well, if it's not for the good.
Right, exactly, right. If you're getting all tensed up and yeah. You mean, really, if you're sitting there saying, well, I can't believe, that's what some people do this. It's the law of attraction going backwards. I've been wanting this amount of money for 40 years and it never comes. Well, that's one of the reasons it's not
Well,
coming.
yeah, right.
But you're also
Resistance.
not in much harmony about it. You're in a little bit of
Right.
anxiety about it, maybe a lot of anxiety about it. And, so you're kind of working backwards against yourself. So just real quickly, there's 3 components to use that get you into expectation. Remember I said expectation, the desire is the spiritual component that connects you with the ability to bring it to you, to the supply. It's turning on the supply. And that's behind the scenes, that's, in the ethers, that's vibration. And expectation is the piece that grabs it out of the ether and brings it to reality. Right? So there's a little hand that goes in there and grabs it out of the ether. So these steps are going to help this process move along. And we've already talked about that. Your interest in what it is you want, in money, in creating money to the good. How could you, invest it? How could you help other people? And you don't want to use this in a dishonest way. Like, I'm just going to say I'm going to help everybody. And then when I get the money, I'm not going to really help anybody. I really don't want to help anybody. I just want to say that. That's not going to work. So your interest, like you are a great example, Rich. You're so interested in copy. You're so interested in story. You're so interested in vulnerability and presenting that, and there's no way it's what you want in terms of that is not going to manifest, because it's actually moved into expectation. And you pay attention to it, right? You take courses, you look at what other people are doing, you engage with this person who kicks your butt about your copy. I mean, your attention is on this, right? The interest and attention, and they are moving together into really great expectation. That because and you're taking action, which is the attention expectation piece, right? So there's no way that well, just keep playing this tape. That's one thing I want to say. I'm going to just push a little bit right now. Part of resetting these lies that are in our head, these paradigms, let's call them paradigms, what they are. Part of resetting paradigms is one, identifying them, but then purposefully putting a new thing in to overtake that paradigm, right? And the way that you do that is through constant spaced repetition. It's you set up the new statement and you say it and you be committed to it and you do it 2 times a day, in the morning for 5 minutes, in the evening for 5 minutes at least. It's called constant spaced repetition. And that is one way, one of the only ways that you are going to believe what you didn't believe before. All of a sudden, in I don't even know how much amount of time, it'll become expectation. You are going to expect this amount of money or this amount of success or whatever it is, shows up because of the constant spaced repetition. And it's important. People say, I've identified a paradigm, but yeah, you've identified a weed in your garden, but what are you doing to pull the weed? Right? So the next step in that, when you identify a paradigm that's holding you back, keeping you from what you want, is to pull the weed and replace it with something good. And you've got to do that in a purposeful way, because you're not going to do it naturally. Your brain doesn't even like it. So anyway, when you use these 3 components, interest, attention, that moves into expectation, you can see it visually, you know it well enough, you've practiced with it. There's an absolute thanks, Mila. I received the positive view from both of you. Yes. Good. Good. Mila's really good at this. And either way, what you're doing is going to create an absolute magnetic force, and there's no choice but it to come to you. It is literally physics. It is literally what, Albert Einstein studied to present the law of relativity. It's literally physics that come from the ether and transmute into physicality. There's a magnetic force to it. It's physics. So this expectation piece, just really quickly, is that I've already said, expectation takes the idea from a wish and works it into reality with the law. And it is the last step, and we've already talked about this, is super, super important. And it is the active form of attention. It's the action part. It's the piece that you work on, all right? And when you believe in the probability of success, you have a keen interest in it. And interest is intensified by anticipation. The desire is to expect, and to expect is to achieve. I think we need to put that on a bumper sticker. Yeah.
So it's always important to be taking the action from joy, right? Joy, correct?
Yes.
I feel like I want to get permission from you to be able to 100% like reject not taking action when I don't feel like it's coming from a place of inspiration and joy.
Absolutely. Please. Here's what I'll say. Stop that. So, I'll give you an example of this. Like, working out of guilt sucks and it doesn't create well, right? I was involved with a nonprofit organization that I ran for many years. And when I left the organization, it felt like I needed to have some distance from that organization, but I still love the work that they do. And so recently I've been looking around for another, I want to invest my money in something to the good, right? I mean, that's important to me. And so I've been looking around for another nonprofit. And I decided that I would, get back involved with this organization. And so this week they've had what they call their annual supporters meeting, where people that support the organization get together and they give reports and they talk and that kind of thing. And I tuned into it last night and it felt crappy. It did not feel right. And then I felt like I was on a Zoom with them, and I felt like, well, now I can't leave because they know I'm here, and then I started feeling guilty because I wanted to leave. And, I was so I knew how crappy it felt and this wasn't right. And then, then I was going to stay there out of guilt. And I was like, this is not how this works. What are you going to create if you sit here? And so I left. And, that's an example of sort of moving into evaluating your life and where you're spending your time and your attention and what you're creating, time and attention, right? Interest and attention and expectation from guilt or from joy. And I left the meeting and I just went on with my life. So. And I feel great that I did it for, like I didn't sit there and expend an hour or more of my life because of guilt, living and feeling crappy, So yes, you have absolutely not even permission, but I have an expectation that you will start doing this, which means you're going to start creating more.
But what about like what the world says about, like upholding these ideals of self-discipline and grit, and I don't know, it's like this kind of like Navy SEAL image of
yeah
like the people who really make it are the ones that go through hell and high water.
Well, so there is a balance here, and there is the law of sacrifice. And the law says that for you to receive something, you have to give something. That's basically the law. So, that doesn't mean that you have to grit it, you have to kill yourself. I mean, people that are taking on that are sort of like overboard in the law of sacrifice, and that can get to not to your good, right? Because you can be not in good health because of it. You can be stressed out because of it. You can be judgmental of other people because of it. So I would say if you take any of these things to the extreme, again, that's getting into tension and anxiety. For me, the massive action, drive yourself nuts, that doesn't work. So yeah, I love what Mila's saying about mental energy, especially be selfish with it. You've got a garden that's so big, you want it to be lush, right? And so be selfish with it. Now, if there's a there's no limitation that any of us have. We absolutely, there's nobody that can say this is as far as you can go. We're connected with divine energy and divine inspiration. And so, and divine power. And so, you see people that are in their 70s that are bodybuilders and, and running marathons and things like that. And everybody else is telling them, oh my God, you're too old. Why are you doing this? It's about what is right for you and what's right for you mentally. Now, if you really want something and you're paying attention to it and you have an expectation you're going to receive it, you do need to continue to pay attention to it, right? Because if you don't, your desire is going to wane, the supply is not going to come. So there's a little bit of discipline there in keeping your attention on something. But it doesn't have to be to the grit, kill yourself, that formula. But I will say, like, for instance, I really want to lose some weight. I gained weight during the COVID thing. I want to be healthier, I want to move. I'm getting a little bit older and my body's like I've got to sort of be conscious of moving sometimes. And so I'm I have a goal. I have an objective that I want to do this. And I know I have to give something to get it. So it's not natural for me. I'm not a natural person that just eats everything healthy and, exercises every day. That's just, there's people that's how they go, but that's not natural for me. I would gravitate toward, French fries and sugar, right? Sugar and booze or whatever it is. And so and that's, that's just where I want to gravitate. But because I desire this goal, I am disciplining myself to take action toward that goal. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I'm tired or I don't want to do it. But because of my will, I tell myself, this is your goal. We're going to do it anyway. Right. So there's a balance there. Sugar and booze. Absolutely. Have you not heard the song Sugar and Booze? Go on YouTube and look and just Google in on YouTube, Sugar and Booze, and that song will come up. My sister and I, that's what we call the holidays, Sugar and Booze. We were just talking about Thanksgiving and we said, we don't really care what happens because we have what? Sugar and booze. Anyway.
So my husband being Hispanic, we make coquito.
Oh yeah,
So-
mojitos, cojitos.
No, coquito. It's the what they call Puerto Rican eggnog.
Oh, okay.
But it's like coconut milk and a couple other things and rum.
Mhm.
So we start that at our house on Thanksgiving. So that's all we worry about is who's bringing the coquito.
Yes, I know George Thorogood. Yeah. See, we're gonna go down another road here.
Hey, but we're having a joyous moment. We're
No,
enjoying.
you put me down this road.
Sugar and booze. right, guys, I got a kid texting me nonstop. I'm gonna have to go get my kid at work. They told him he can go home. So, all right, so here's your homework. Is anybody doing their homework?
I may not fully read my chapters, but I am working on the laws.
This one and any of these, just if you can get to watching these 2 times, and I know we've been slow sending them out sometimes, but if you can watch it even again to just kind of deepen, remember repetition, repetition, repetition. And many of you are in other things with me where we're talking about these concepts again. So, you are getting the repetition, but also the goals that you set, those C-level goals, read them daily. And ask yourself, which are you paying attention to? Where are you placing your interests? And where are you with your expectation of them becoming? Right? So we want to get these goals out. I mean, I have mine right here. I read them every day, every single day. And what am I really paying? Do I want to pay attention to something else too? I mean, this house with a pool and magic landscaping, I haven't paid much attention to that lately. I really like thinking about that. I feel like I do need to pay some attention to that. So, where are you paying attention to? Where can you learn more about it? Where can you get more interest so that you can, I don't want to say act as if, but live in the moment that you've already received it. Live in the thought that you have received it. And don't start arguing with yourself. Well, this is reality. And no, I haven't. Just, okay, I'm glad you're going to listen to some George Thorogood. I drink alone. All right. So I want you to just try to work on that expectation piece. That's a difficult one because we're taught seeing is believing. But again, the law of supply says believing is seeing. And that's where expectation comes in. And then, like I said, if you guys need to be looking at where you have paradigms coming in front of you. You don't have to work on all of them at once, but choose one that's really keeping you from achieving your results that you really want. And then write an affirmation. I'm so happy and grateful now. And you're going to use constant spaced repetition on purpose, consciously, 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. Those of you that are doing this, I know because I'm watching you, your life is changing in front of me. And I know it's changing in front of you. The way you're relating the things, the way you're talking about things, and what is coming to you. Those of you that I know are doing this, it is rocking your world. But you do have to be committed to it, and you do have to be conscious of it. Right? So there you go. Thoughts?
Good stuff. I love how it deepens week over week over week over week. And we've even worked ahead a little bit on this week.
So what was this thing about affirmations?
So how do you replace a paradigm? And so when you identify a paradigm that's going on, like, earlier today when you said, I've realized that I have this message or this idea, like running around and just this constant paradigm about I don't deserve, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve. So when you hear that and you know that that's something running around in your head that's keeping you from the results you want or keeping you from feeling joy, peace, and harmony, then what you do is you reformulate the statement into what is healing or what replaces that you want going on in your head, right?
So I do deserve.
I'm so happy and grateful now that I see that I deserve, I expect to deserve, and I am receiving good at all times or whatever it is.
And then I read the positive one morning and night. That's
And not once, you want to go through it. It's constant spaced repetition. So you want to do it 5 minutes, set your timer, at least 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. You want this to get drilled into there like a record that play, those songs you get in your head, like I
Right,
drink
right,
alone.
so it's
So-
the same one affirmation I just repeat over and over, or is it okay to have a couple of affirmations?
You
that I
can
repeat
do
over
a
and over?
couple, but if you
But
try
you
to
wouldn't
do
recommend that.
Well, if you try to do too many, it's overwhelming for your brain and it's overwhelming for your system because your brain's has to literally neurologically, it has to formulate new pathways to be able to take this on, and it's going to push against you. And so if you try to do too many at once, you'll just quit because you'll be like, no, because your neural pathways are like screwed up. So I would do one. That's the one that's affecting you the most, right?
Okay.
So, or the result that you need the most or want.
How long does it take to install one?
Everybody's different, honey. I don't know. Usually about 30 days. I usually tell
Oh,
people, do this for but you should, when you know it's installed, here's what you'll do. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am earning $10 million or more a year. That truth is clearly, imaged in my conscious mind, is effectively planted in my subconscious emotional mind, and therefore it is moving into physical form. And when you say it, it's like a friend to you. It's like you've fallen in love with that idea. I say it and I have like a calming emotional response. It's not a chore. It is my friend. I have fallen in love with that idea. So when you've fallen in love with it, then it's in there. Constant space repetition, subconscious emotional mind. That's what creates subconscious emotional mind. And so you got to fall. I'm not saying you've got to, you will. That'll become a belief. That'll become faith. That'll become absolute. There's no doubt in my mind this is happening for me.
So I learned the importance of doing it in the morning and the night, like when you first wake up and right before you go to bed, because that's when you're most connected to your subconscious mind. Because I would say it randomly. And then I read that fact and I was like, oh, okay, let's do this while my mind is more open to receive. And also, Rich, how long did you go to school to become trained to do something?
Copywriter.
Right. Did you go to 4-year university, any additional university years, anything like that? But you went to school
Yeah, but
for
you've
at
been
least
trained.
12 years,
I know
right?
you've been training to be a copywriter for at least 2 years.
So isn't your long-term importance enough to do it as many times as it takes?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering.
Generally,
kinda
it's
have a
about
mind like
30
that.
days. Yeah. Generally, it's about 30 days, but different people, and it's, could be a deep weed. So if it's a deep weed in there, sometimes you got to pull on the root and keep going for it and replace it with something way into the ground. So
Repetition is the key there.
repetition, absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
feeling it. That's what Paula taught me. And that was a game changer for me.
Yeah,
Feel
'cause
it. Don't just say the words. Feel it.
Initially, you'll just be saying it because you don't believe it yet. It hasn't sunk in, but at some point a switch will go off and you will be emotionally connected to it. And that's when it's in there, and you want to, I still pull mine out every once in a while. I have a different affirmation I'm saying now, but I pull that one out because it's my buddy. It's my friend. It makes me feel good. I like it. So. Right?
I'm one of the luckiest people in the world because I'm part of this group.
You are. I am too. It is absolute magic to be part of this. Truly. It is life-changing. It's cool. Thank you all.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week, right?
Yes. And be careful. It's starting to rain outside. So
Yeah,
be
I
careful
heard it.
going to get your sun.
Yeah. I'm going to have
Beautiful
to
out
go.
here.
Huh?
All right. Just rub
Beautiful.
it in. Send
Beautiful
us
out
some
here.
sunshine. Send us some sunshine, Rich.
Go enjoy the day, Rich, and you guys have a good evening. We'll
See you
talk
next
soon.
time. Cheers.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.